Oh, now I have to watch what I say. So that's my cue to get off the mic and turn over to Joy Glad.
Good morning. Just a couple of things. I have the list of the people who have signed up. I would love for everybody to check it. If you are not on this list, please put your contact information on there. That way we can add you to our database and be able to contact you for future events. So like you said, my name is Joy Glad. I am the program director here, director of programs. See, now you screwed me up. You titled me too, the director of programs. I'm also on the Women in Safety Steering Committee here. As we're getting started, I would like to introduce the staff that we work with. We'll start with Fabiana over here. No, well, that means you got to walk up here too, lady.
My name is Fabiana. I'm the manager. Manager marketing and business development here in the Utah Safety Council, and I'm part of the Women in Safety as well. So next we're going to introduce Yvette.
Hello. It's nice to see everyone again. If we haven't met yet, or if you got who I was, I'm Yvette Stephanie, okay, just got a new title change. Program Manager, NSC Programs. It's nice to see y'all. Who's next? JP. Hi, Mary.
Over there. Hello, everybody. My name is Juan Pablo, but I go by JP. I'm the accounting manager and senior accounting manager. That's right. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Steed. I am the Mining and Refinery Program Manager here at the Utah Safety Council, and we're glad you're all here today. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I am the Outreach and Community Education Manager. Hi.
Hello, everyone. I'm Quentin McCarver. I'm the office manager here. Glad to have you guys here. Excited to use this space. So I'll turn it over to Karen.
Aloha! Oh my gosh, you guys are hungry. Aloha! All right. My name is Karen Kitiona. I am the barefooted Samoan in the building, slash janitor, slash mom.
Slash auntie, slash you name it.
You name it. Okay. I am the occupational program manager. I've been to a few of these, so it's really good. Welcome to our new building. And if you ever get lost in the building, come get me, okay? Thank you.
One last staff person I would like to introduce who's joining us in July is Mary Monterosso. She will be our program coordinator. We're happy to have her on board. I know that we've had pictures of the steering committee going by, but I would like the steering committee, if they could please stand up and wave. We have Tammy here in the back. We've got Sarah and Candy's over here. We're missing Gwen. Did Kristen just walk in? Yeah, there she is. And we've got Naomi, and then Yvette, Fabi, and myself. We are your steering committee to make these things happen. So these ladies have put in so much work over the last couple of years, helping us build a better program with more opportunities for all of us. And so we are grateful to have them as part of our team. And at that point, I would like to say the kitchen is open. Please help yourself to lunch. Hi, welcome back. I hope at lunch was treating you really good today. So I get to do the fun parts, and I really appreciate that I'm allowed to do this. So it is my esteemed pleasure to introduce Rachel Royal. Rachel has over a decade of leadership as an executive and founder in the corporate sphere. She has empowered thousands of high-performing professionals to overcome barriers, scale their influence, and lead with purpose. Rachel is a transformational coach, sought-after keynote speaker, licensed attorney, and an award-winning serial entrepreneur. She is well known for guiding companies towards financial success. Rachel's coaching combines sharp business strategy by reinventing leadership. She helps clients unlock new levels of clarity, confidence, and sustainable growth. She is a major influence in heart-led leadership and emotional intelligence. And I got to be honest, I had to look up what heart-led leadership was. I found out the Navy uses it. So that's pretty cool. She has been guiding people in aligning their ambitions with authenticity to create a lasting impact. In addition to her professional accolades, Rachel is a devoted wife and mother of 7. Rachel embodies what it means to live a life of fulfillment, freedom, and intentional legacy building. Please give a warm welcome to Rachel Royal. Thank you.
All right. Aloha. I am actually originally from Hawaii, born and raised. Everyone thinks I'm Latina. I'm not, but I do speak Spanish, so it's very confusing. Who here is a leader? Raise your hand. Hi, raise it high. Okay. 7 years ago, I was at my office, at my law firm where I worked, and I was curled up under my desk like this. My heart was racing, my throat was closing up, tears were streaming down my face, and I was having another panic attack. I just graduated from law school, passed the bar. I'd done everything I was supposed to do and thought I wanted to do, and yet I was miserable. And I didn't know what was happening. I'd worked so hard to get this job. I was married with kids. I was pregnant with my 3rd baby at the time. On the outside, my life looked perfect, but inside I was so lost and so unhappy. A few weeks later, after that day, I was driving to work. And on my way to work, I remembered someone had sent me a podcast. And at this time, 7 years ago, I had never listened to a podcast. I didn't even know what a podcast was, you guys. But I remembered someone sent it to me. And so I decided to press play. I pressed play, and that podcast, what the woman on that podcast said, changed my life forever. She said, everything in life is neutral. Every circumstance, every person, every event, everything is neutral. It doesn't mean anything, and it cannot make us feel anything. It's really our thoughts and our beliefs about those things that create our feelings. It's our feelings that drive our actions or inactions, and it's our actions that create our results and our reality. And for the first time, I understood why I was so miserable. It wasn't my job. It wasn't my ex, even though it was a very unhealthy relationship. It wasn't what was happening around me. It was me. It was the way I was thinking that was creating my feelings and creating my results. And it was like my mind blew in that moment. You know, like the mind blown emoji? Like that is how I felt in that moment. And it was so empowering because I realized if I had created this life that I was so unhappy in, I had the power to change it and create a life I truly loved and wanted. And this was the beginning of my empowerment journey and my leadership journey. And so I tell you this story because awareness of why we're feeling what we're feeling, why we're doing what we're doing, why we have the results we do is the first step to empowerment. Oh, you got it. Thank you. Okay, so after this time, I did a whole 180. I blew up my life basically. So I got super into personal development. I read everything I could. I got a coach. I worked on myself a lot. I quit my job. I quit my religion. I got a divorce. Every big major life decision, I moved. I changed everything. I kept my kids. I kept them. Everything else I changed. And I really started to go inward and see, okay, who am I? What do I want? What is being alive even mean? And this is what started. And so I want to read the definition of empowered, or someone else read it actually. Who would like to read that definition?
Having the confidence, clarity, and authority to take intentional action and make decisions aligned with your values and goals. Leadership, the ability to influence, inspire, and guide others toward a shared vision or goal. It involves decision-making, responsibility, and a commitment to creating impact beyond oneself.
Thank you so much. And so really, leadership is just influence. So being a leader just means you're influencing people. And John Maxwell, who's like the godfather of leadership in our time, says that each person will influence around 10,000 people in their lifetime without even trying. So I'm going to ask again, who here is a leader? Every person's hand should go up because everyone is constantly influencing someone else, right? But the question is, how do we want to influence? Right? Are we going to be intentional about our influence? Are we going to do it with purpose? Are we going to know where we're going and where we're taking people? Or are we going to be haphazard about it? And so really the definition of empowered leadership that I came up with is empowered leadership is when you lead from a place of internal strength, not external status. It's when you know who you are, what you stand for, and you lead others in a way that helps them rise too. And so John Maxwell also says that there are 5 levels of leadership, and being a level 5 leader is very rare. They're the most effective leaders. And the lowest level of leadership is just a title, right? It's the responsibility given to you, maybe at a job or being a parent, but that's the lowest level. Being a level 5 leader is completely different, and there's steps to it. I created my own empowered leadership framework. And these 5 pillars that I decided to include, I feel are the most important and the most effective things we can focus on to be empowered leaders. We could talk about leadership for days and days and days, but we only have less than an hour. So these 5 are what we're going to focus on. The first pillar is awareness and emotional intelligence. And what that is answering the questions, who am I and who do I want to be? And this is my personal belief, is I think the most important question we can ask ourselves is, who do I want to be? Because we can be anyone. The second pillar is zone of genius. We're going to talk more about that. This concept comes from Gay Hendricks, an incredible author and coach who we'll talk more about. But this answers, what am I here for, right? And what can I do that no one else can do? The third pillar is boundaries and boldness. That answers, how do I honor who I am and what my zone of genius is? And the fourth pillar is authenticity. How do I lead from my truth? How do I show up as my full self and my full expression? And the fifth, aligned action. What will I do next? None of the other 4 pillars matter if we're not doing anything about it. We're not taking that action. Okay, so awareness and emotional intelligence. I think so many leaders lack this and they don't even know it because they're not aware, right? But awareness is so important. And what I just explained to you in this podcast that I listened to, which was the beginning of my awareness, is it comes from something called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, that was founded in the 1960s by a doctor named Aaron Beck. And so this model of awareness is just an evolution of that. And basically what it is, like I said, is all circumstances are neutral. It's our thoughts and beliefs about those things that create our feelings. Those feelings drive our actions, and our actions create our results and reality. The best news is that once we become aware of how we're operating and what our results are and why, then we can change it. And that's what neuroplasticity is, right? They used to think back in the day that once we believe something, we were just a set way and we couldn't change. We know that's not true. We can question our thoughts, question our beliefs. Are they empowering us? Are they serving us? If not, what do we want to think? What do we want to believe instead? And if you take nothing else from today, this is probably the most important thing that I'll be talking about. And this simple model, but so profound, is what changed my life completely from a newbie attorney having a panic attack under my desk to an empowered leader, someone who loves their life. This simple model. Okay, so I had a coaching client, who was a very successful executive. Very successful. He was an executive in healthcare facilities in Arizona. Very wealthy, very successful, but he was young. And he was invited by some older, wealthy, successful men to get into partnership and to create a business in healthcare facilities. And it was like a multi-million-dollar deal. He was super excited about it. And he hired me in this time to help him navigate this transition. And this simple model, I use it in my coaching. And he came to me, he said, Rachel, we had a meeting with the partners. We're doing the operating agreement. We're coming up with ideas. I do not like how I showed up in my last meeting. I felt so insecure. I didn't say what I really wanted to say. And so we ran through this model with him. And this is just an example of the model in action, if you can see that. So the awareness is the unintentional model usually is like how we're showing up when we don't want to be showing up. It's unintentional. It's disempowering. So this was his model that we came up with. Is like, okay, well, what happened? How were you feeling? What was happening? The C is for the circumstance. It was a neutral circumstance. He was meeting with his co-owners. His thought was, I'm the least experienced owner, which was true, but he was focusing on it and seeing it as a negative thing. That made him feel inadequate. And from that inadequacy, his actions were, he deferred to others, he was overthinking, he didn't speak up, he lacked confidence. And those actions created the result of showing up as inexperienced. So the result will always be a direct reflection of the thought or belief, right? So the thought was, I'm the least experienced owner. So then he showed up as inexperienced. It's like, yeah, Rachel, I don't want to show up that way anymore. I want it to be different. I have another meeting coming up. What can I do? And I was like, okay, now we know why you showed up this way. Let's be intentional. Let's create an intentional, empowering model for you. So I asked him, like, how do you want to feel in this meeting? He's like, I want to feel confident. I want to feel confident. I'm like, okay. So same neutral circumstance. You're going to have a very similar meeting. What do you need to think and believe to feel confident? And he came up with this. I bring a lot of value. He's like, they wouldn't have asked me to partner with them if I didn't have value to bring. I was like, definitely. So I bring a lot of value. That he believed it and it made him feel confident. So I was like, okay, from confidence, what are you going to do or not do? I'm going to speak up. I'm not going to defer to others. I'm going to share my ideas. I'm going to collaborate. And then his result will be delivered a lot of value, which is the direct reflection of the thought, right? I bring a lot of value. So next week we get on our coaching call. It's like, Rachel, the meeting was amazing. I was so confident and I just went in there thinking and believing I bring a lot of value, right? So simple, but so powerful. And we can do this in every single area of our lives. So I want everyone to take a minute on your papers right there. You can see the CTFAR on there. There's the unintentional and the intentional. I want you to think of a time recently, and it can be in any situation, where you either felt a way you didn't want to feel or you showed up in a way that you didn't want to, and you were not empowered. And run through this model, and I'll go back. So is this one more helpful or this one more helpful to fill it out? This one? Okay. All right. So just take a couple minutes and do the unintentional one first. And let me know when you're done. And if you have questions as you're filling it out, just feel free to ask. What was that? Thought-provoking music. Okay. Would anyone like to share? Did everyone fill out the unintentional model? Okay. Would anyone like to share and be vulnerable? Okay. Thank you. Let's get you a mic. Oh, I don't. You don't need one. She doesn't need one.
We're going through a big tendering process right now. We have a project that is coming up that we're trying to win the bid on that has made me feel very unprepared, that there's so much content to learn and get ahead of, that it is making me feel very overwhelmed. So going into this meeting, I'm not prepared. I don't know what questions they're going to be asking me. It's a lot of uncertainty, that the feeling was inadequate, shouldn't be here. I'm not fulfilling the obligation of my role. And that kind of paralyzed in fear moment was my action, that I'm like, not real sure what to do, how to move forward. And so my result was not getting any of the questions or the information that I needed out of that. And I went ahead and did the
Perfect. Yeah.
exact same meeting, because it's a weekly revolving thing, that I've honed in on one specific area, that water and dust at this particular site is a big problem for us. So I went in feeling more prepared, more confident, had my questions outlined. That it ended up, for me, my action was that I got more RFI development, very specifics, that this is the content that I need back from the client, and that getting that in the log to make that very intentional. That's definitely one of the things that I'm working through as a contractor, because it's always changing.
Thank you so much for sharing. What was your name? Lacey. Thank you. That is the perfect example, right? Same meeting, completely different result, because she changed her thoughts, her beliefs, her feelings. She didn't change her actions. Okay. So I encourage you to then do the intentional model on your own time, or you can do it now, but we're going to move on because we don't have a ton of time. And really think about, yeah, how do you want to show up next time? How do you want to feel? And the really cool thing about this model is you can reverse engineer it, where you can put any goal, any result you want to create, and you put it in the R line, and then you just ask yourself the questions backwards. So what actions do I need to take to make this result happen? How do I need to feel to take those actions? What do I need to think and believe to feel that way? And it's like magic. Okay, so the other part of this is because sometimes we don't even know what we're feeling, right? We're just living day to day. Sometimes it feels like survival. Sometimes we're just like so in our head, especially at work, we're very cerebral. But emotional intelligence is so important. And I talk about feelings a lot. I feel really deeply. I cry at work sometimes. I cry with my clients sometimes. Like, it might seem unprofessional, but I have learned to be very emotional because feelings really are everything. It's why we do what we do, right? It's driving our actions. And the reason we do anything is because how we think it's going to make us feel. So feelings really are so important. And we need to be aware. What are we feeling? So, you can do an emotional check-in with yourself at any time. And just the questions are, what am I feeling? It could be a positive emotion, a negative emotion, especially if you're overwhelmed or you're feeling a negative emotion. Just stopping, asking yourself, what am I feeling? And naming the emotion. If it's a negative emotion you're feeling, just naming it, I think there's like a study, it's a huge percentage. I can't remember the exact number, but it's like 80% of that feeling is going to dissipate just because you're naming it. Then you ask yourself, why? Right? Why am I feeling that? Clue, it's because of what you're thinking and believing. And then, is it serving me? Is this emotion serving me? Is this thought serving me? Is it empowering me? Okay, what do I need in this moment? And how can I give it to myself? We at human nature, we tend to think that other people give us what we need, right? It's as if we just had, I don't want to go political. If we just had a different, the weather was just different, or our winters weren't so long, or if my husband would just do that, or if my boss was different, right? Then I could feel better. But what you really need, you can always give to yourself. And so that's this quote I have here. Taking radical ownership of your beliefs, your feelings, your actions, and results is the gateway to power. Victimhood, which means blaming someone else or something else, is the illusion of powerlessness. And the reason I say the illusion is because we are never powerless. It's just an illusion if we feel that way. Okay, I think I had a exercise here. No. Okay. Moving on. Self-awareness is the doorway, but it's not the destination. It's just the very beginning and the first pillar of leadership. The next step in empowered leadership is discovering your zone of genius, the unique space where your natural brilliance and deep contribution meet. So Gay Hendricks, brilliant author, brilliant coach, he came up with this idea that there are 4 zones, and there is the zone of incompetence, which means things that other people could probably do better than you. For me, that's cooking and cleaning, okay? I'm actually a good cook, I just don't enjoy it. I'm not good at cleaning. And there are some people who thrive, who are really good at it, way better than me, right? So not the best use of my time personally. There's the zone of competence. Things you do just fine, but others are as good as you, okay? Then there's a zone of excellence. Things you are excellent at, but you don't love doing. And a clue to this is something that you're really good at. People usually pay you to do this, but you might like it, but not love it. And you usually feel drained afterward. Oh, my zone of competence, PowerPoint presentations. I'm okay at them, not my zone of genius, making this yesterday. And then your zone of genius, things you are uniquely good at in the world that you love to do so much, that really it's a contribution to the world, and you love it, and you would do it without being paid for it, but you can be paid for it. So my zone of genius is coaching and speaking. I love it so much. I feel so energized by it. When I'm coaching, I'm just like in complete flow. Also, some attorney work, I'm just in total flow, parts of it, not all of it, right? And so the whole concept of this book, so Gay Hendricks wrote two books. One is The Big Leap, where it's an amazing book. I highly, highly, highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, where he introduces this idea. And the second book is The Genius Zone, which he goes into more detail about this. And the whole point, he says, of life is to get where we can be in our zone of genius most of the time, where we're in flow, where we're making our biggest contribution, where we're doing what we love, and we're not like fighting or having this friction in life. And so I would like to invite each of you to do a little exercise where you can ask yourself, when was the last time you felt this way? So so there's questions here on the prompt. Where are you operating from? So the first question is, right now, where are you spending the majority of your energy? Is it in your zone of incompetence, competence, excellence, or genius? And just write a little bit. There's not a lot of space, so just find space somewhere and think about it and write some answers down. And if you know what your zone of genius is, oh, okay. So I want you to partner up with somebody and talk about what you discovered right now. So where are you spending the majority of your energy? And there's no right or wrong, like there's no shame involved here. We're not doing that. It's just awareness, right? So where are you spending the majority of your energy and your time, in which zone? And then if you know what your zone of genius is, or you're not sure yet, and well, you want to discover that. So just have a little discussion with a partner and talk about it. I see some people without a partner. I'm calling you out, Fabiana. You can tell me now. Okay, so I know the zone of Okay. All right. Which pair would like to share? Did you guys each have enough time to talk? Yes? No? Okay. Who would like to share? Let's have volunteers of a pair, what you discovered about each other. Anybody? Come on, you guys. Safe space. Okay. Okay. Tell me more. Do you each know what your zone of genius is? What is it, Joy? And are you constantly doing that? Okay. Yes. So based on of all the activities that you're doing, how much would you say percentage are you in your zone of genius versus not? Okay. And that's fascinating, right? Because look at Joy. She works for the safety council. She's over the women in safety, and all of like her life seems like it revolves around safety, but she's saying that only 30% is in the zone of genius, which is still not only, that's still great, right? Some people, it's better than nothing. Some people don't know what their zone of genius is, and that's okay too. But I would invite you, if you don't know what it is, to discover it. And like I said, like it's that when you're in flow, you love it. You would do it without being paid for it. And usually when you go all in on it is when you will end up making the most money, because you are just loving it so much that you're just going to end up getting paid a lot of money for it, right? And so, but it doesn't have to be that way. And so thank you for sharing, Joy. That's awesome, right? And so knowing what that is, and the thing about leadership is we can be the most effective leaders when we are in our zone of genius, and then we help others to be in their zone of genius, right? Imagine like this well-oiled machine where everyone is like, there's no friction because everyone's doing what they're best at and they're loving it and enjoying it, right? And so that's the goal, and it's possible. It's totally possible. Sometimes there's some stepping stones to get there, and that's okay. But to have that as a goal or an idea of, hey, I can live my life this way, where I really love what I do, and I can inspire others to live in that as well. So your zone of genius is where your most impactful leadership lives. When you're in that zone, you're not just executing, you're inspiring. You're not just delivering, you're expanding what's possible for others. Okay, so we did that. No, we didn't do that, but that's okay. You can do that later. We're going to move on to the third pillar. So boundaries and boldness. I love talking about this because I think boundaries are misunderstood. We talk about boundaries a lot as a society, but I think it's misunderstood sometimes. So we talked about, right, emotional intelligence and awareness. Who am I? Who do I want to be? Then we talked about the zone of genius. What am I best at? And then the whole point of boundaries and bonus is protecting that, right? Creating the space where your genius can live and you can thrive in who you really are and who you want to be. So you don't become empowered by pleasing everyone. You become empowered when you lead yourself with clarity, courage, and commitment. So in order to lead others, we first have to effectively lead ourselves, right? Who here is a people pleaser or recovering people pleaser? Raise your hand. A little bit? Okay, I am definitely a recovering, mostly recovered people pleaser. I usually, when I started this journey 7 years ago, I was such a people pleaser. And my coach, my original coach, likes to say that people pleasers are liars. And I was like, whoa, that's harsh. But it's true because you're doing something you don't really want to do, pretending that you do. And then you feel crappy about it and nobody else, it doesn't serve anybody, right? So sorry, guys, if you are a people pleaser, you're actually a liar. And I can say that because I was one and I still am working on it still, right? But boundaries are okay, yes. So boundaries is where we're redefining boundaries as self-leadership. So it's a declaration of self-respect, not control, right? It's clarity. Setting boundaries isn't controlling others. You're making clear requests which equal powerful leadership. So most people think that boundaries is like, I'm going to tell you what you cannot do anymore, and you need to respect that. That's actually not what a boundary is. A boundary is something that you decide from within you, hey, this is something I need, I want, and I can either communicate that, it's more effective if you do, to the person that you need to communicate that to. And it's not controlling them, telling them what they can or cannot do. It's you saying, hey, this is my boundary, this is what I want or need. And if that's not respected, then I'm going to take an action. So you're not controlling the other person. You are taking an action based on if they fulfill that request or not. Does that make sense? So an example is I had a friend who said that her mom was very overbearing and she would come over unannounced all the time. And she'd want to just come take over like what the kids were doing and their plans. And she loved her mom, but she was like, we need our own family time. And her mom would just constantly do that. She loved her mom, but she said, hey, mom, I have this boundary. If you come over unannounced and we don't invite you, we're actually not going to welcome you in anymore, which might sound very harsh, especially for some cultures, right? You're like, oh my God, I would never do that. But it was something that she needed for her peace. And so it wasn't like, hey, mom, you can't come over. She's like, but if you do, we're actually not going to let you in. Okay. So I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying that was her boundary and that's an example, right? Or a boss, right? So say you have a boss that gets riled up and can sometimes speak with a tone that is disrespectful. I don't know if any of us have ever experienced that before. Maybe. And, we don't have to be emotional about it, but for love for yourself and respect for yourself and that person, you can say, hey, when you speak in this way, I would appreciate it if you don't speak in that way. And if you do, then I'm actually just going to walk away next time out of respect. Right. And so it's not you saying, hey, you can't do this ever again. It's more like, please don't. And if you do, then I'm going to take action on it. Right. So that's the major difference. And I talk about love a lot. Love, I think people are like, oh, that's for home or that's for family. Love is everything. And love for yourself and love for other people is what makes life worth living. And we should bring love into the workplace. We should bring love into all of our relationships. And so I always say boundaries are set with love for yourself and the other person in mind, right? Okay, so this is the other part. So making that request is part of that boundary. And I always, this was something a coach, one of my executive coaches taught me as I was building a company with my husband. So my husband and I built a very successful company at one point. And we were sitting there, both of us, on a Zoom call with our coach. And I was mad about something. And I was like complaining to my coach about my husband in front of my husband. I was like, he doesn't do this, And I was like mad about it. And he's like, Rachel, can you turn your complaints into requests? And I was like, oh, that's so good. So anytime you have a complaint about anything or anyone, It's so much more powerful if you turn that complaint into a request, right? So complaint is not a request, a hint is not a request, and silence is not a request. And any of you who are married, you know there can be lots of complaints, right? And I promise you it works so much better. And as I was preparing earlier this week for this, I was looking at this, and one of my weaknesses, flaws, we're gonna talk about authenticity in a little bit, so I'm being super authentic and vulnerable, is like, yeah, I will complain sometimes to my husband about like, you don't do this and you don't do that. We have an amazing relationship and he's the best, by the way. But one of the things is like, I like to go on date nights, and I've told him a million times, I'm like, hey, can you plan date nights? Like, or can we go on them? Like, I would really love that. And he loves to spend time with me, but he's not the best planner. And so sometimes I'll complain about it. And so as I was preparing this, I was like, you know what? I'm going on a 3-night retreat that I'm hosting this weekend. So I'm leaving tomorrow, be back Monday. I'm not going to see him the rest of the weekend. I'd love to go on a date with him before I go. And I was like, so I like texted him on the spot as I was preparing. And I was like, hey, babe, could we go on a date Thursday night? I would really love that. He's like, yeah, let's do it, right? And so I just made a request instead of complaining and be like, I'm leaving, hello, are you not going to plan a date, right? So it works so much better, you guys. Oh, and the other thing about requests is that this might seem obvious, but it has to be made to the person who can actually do something about it, right? Sometimes we make requests to people who can't do something about it. It has to be to the person who can do something about it. Okay, the other part of this, and this is where the boldness, yes, you need boldness to make those requests, but also the boldness of making promises. So nothing happens in life or in leadership unless we make requests and then we make and keep promises. So a promise is not just a statement, it's a powerful act of leadership. It's your decision to stop reacting and start creating. Making a promise is how you stake a claim for the future you want to lead. When you keep that promise, you reinforce your identity as a leader, one bold choice at a time. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you rewrite what's possible for others too. So I'm very, very big on commitment. I think in this world today, there are not enough committed people. And that can mean different things, right? But I feel like I've worked around a lot of people who will set a meeting time and then they don't show up. Right? Doesn't that drive you crazy? Or they say they're going to do something and then they don't fulfill. And that's just so commonplace and normal that is almost like accepted, but I don't think that's acceptable. I think that it happens, yes, but we can be the difference in being truly committed and making promises, right? Some of us would never not show up for a meeting, right? We would never do that with somebody else. But will you show up for a meeting with yourself? How many promises have you made to yourself, right? I'm going to wake up at this time. I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to do this thing for myself. But we don't do it. But we would never not show up for somebody else. How many of us have done that? Right? So why is it that we can keep promises and commitments to others, but not ourselves? When we really are the most important people in our lives. Because if we're not showing up for ourselves, then we're really not showing up in our full capacity for others. So really thinking about this in the promises I make are not just for other people, but especially for myself. What is one promise, something I really want that I can make for myself that I'm going to keep, a commitment I'm going to keep to myself? And then where is maybe an area of commitment towards others that I can improve? Because when you keep those promises to yourself and you keep those promises to others, that is empowered leadership. Okay, so I already said this, but write this down, right? Where in your leadership do you need to be more bold or more boundaried? Boundaried is a made-up word. And I can make up words because my law professors did that all the time in law school. They always made up words. I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. So more boundaried. So take a minute right now, ask yourself, and write down what's one clear request that you can make this week for something that you want to happen, to somebody who can make it happen. And then what's one bold promise to live into, whether it's to yourself or to somebody else? Okay, who would like to share? Who's willing to share what they wrote? I'm comfortable with silence. I can stand up here. Just one of these two things. Does anyone want to share what they wrote? Yes, what was yours? Mm. Love it. So good. When are you going to do that? Yes. Perfect. That's exciting. That's awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So we only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to get through these last ones really, really quickly. But authenticity. Why do you think that I included this on my 5 pillars when it comes to empowered leadership?
If not, you're already presenting yourself based off the lives.
Yeah.
You're saying things that maybe you don't technically believe, and you know, true out there, but
Yes, totally. Totally. Yeah, and how many of you have been able to just like feel when someone's saying something to you or in your presence and you just know like there's something off? Like, yeah, well, you can say it. Yeah, right? And do you trust that person? Would you follow that person? No, right? And so sometimes, like I was saying, when we're not self-aware, we don't even know we're not being authentic because we don't even know ourselves. And we're so just like in this performance that we're not even real. And so choosing presence over perfection, right? I am also, oh my gosh, a lot of confession today. I'm also a recovering perfectionist, right? And what is perfectionism? It's wanting to be perfect, thinking that, you know, you don't want anyone to see your flaws, really, right? Because you're worried of what other people are going to think about you. But nobody's perfect. And nobody even likes someone who thinks they're perfect or pretends to be perfect, right? So it all comes back to actually self-love. Like I love myself so much that I can show up imperfectly because I got my own back. And if people don't like me, that's okay. And if I make mistakes, that's okay because I can keep going because I got my own back, right? And that is just so attractive in leadership when people are authentic and they're not performing, they're being real and they're being vulnerable. So this is a tool. Check your mask, right? In any situation, Sometimes people have social anxiety in certain situations or whatever, but ask yourself, am I performing or am I connecting? Am I connecting with this person or am I putting on a performance? Am I trying to appear perfect or am I being real? Removing the mask takes courage, but it's the fastest way to build trust. And then ask yourself, what mask am I wearing right now? Am I trying to be the expert or the achiever, right? So that's a tool to just ask yourself in those situations. Like, we might be authentic, but there's certain situations where we might not show up authentically. And asking yourself in that moment, how can I take the mask off? And why am I having the mask on? Okay, this you can do later at home. But asking yourself, what parts of myself have I been hiding to feel safe? The only reason we're hiding parts of ourselves or we're not showing up purely authentic is because it's scary to do so, because it feels unsafe. And that's really why, like, going really deep onto why we do what we do, mostly it's to feel safe. That's what it is. It comes down to that. But what if you could just cultivate your own safety by knowing that you're safe? And it's not our fault. We're really, through evolution, we are designed for survival, right? We have our primitive brain and our prefrontal cortex. Our primitive brain is the large part of our brain that kept us alive through evolution. Like, we need to run away from tigers. We need to stay in the cave to survive. In this day and age, we do not need to stay in the cave, right? We don't need to hide those parts of ourselves. It is safe. And so just asking yourself that. And then asking what might shift in my leadership. This is leadership at home, at work, social situations. What might shift in my leadership if I allowed myself to be fully seen? Real leadership isn't about climbing a ladder. It's about becoming a lighthouse. You lead by how you live, how you love, and how you light the way for others to rise, right? So you can only be a lighthouse and shine bright when you're in your authentic self. If you're hiding in the cave, that's not a lighthouse, right? No one's gonna see that fire you have in that cave. The lighthouse allows itself to be seen. It shines bright, and that allows other people to come and to rise as well. Oh shoot, what did I touch? I think I touched a button. Oh, there, okay. I'm so glad Taylor's here for things like this. Okay, so the fifth pillar, right? We've covered the first four. The fifth pillar is aligned action. Those other four pillars don't mean anything if we don't take action and do something about it. When I say aligned action, what does that mean to you? What does alignment mean? Somebody tell me, what does alignment mean to you? And everything falls into place. Everyone has the same goal. Yeah. Yeah. And so alignment, like, yeah, everything falls into place, everything's aligned. Have you ever done something and felt out of alignment? Yeah. And then you've done something and then you feel in total alignment and you can feel the difference, right? And it's being true to your authentic self versus saying no when you really want to say no, saying yes when you really want to say yes instead of people pleasing. That's alignment. So aligned action is asking, what will I do next? And acting from purpose, not pressure. Action without alignment leads to burnout. So people think burnout is just doing too much. And I do think that as moms and as women, we do a lot. I know. We do a lot. We do too much, I think, actually. We're expected to, right? If we are moms, raise our kids, get them to school, go to work, climb the corporate ladder, take care of everyone and everything. It's the mental load, the physical load, the financial load. I really believe there's going to be a revolution some point, hopefully soon, of our expectations of women in this day and age, right? And I should talk. I have 7 kids and I have a business and I work full time. It's a lot. But burnout doesn't come from what you do. Burnout comes from what you do and how you do it. If you're out of alignment, right? That's where the burnout comes from. So you can be wildly productive and also still feel unfulfilled if your actions aren't anchored in your values and vision. Empowered leadership means you don't just move, you move in the right direction. Okay, so this is a tool that I like to use. It's called the Aligned Yes filter. So this is for my people pleasers, right? We can use this tool. Before you say yes to something, ask, 1, does it match my values? 2, does it align with my vision? 3, is this the right timing? 4, do I have the energy and bandwidth to honor this well? If it's not a full body yes, it might need to be a no or a not yet. And as women, we have something very special. It's our intuition. Everybody has it, but I think women can be a little bit more tapped into it sometimes, but we can also be trained to ignore it. There's scientific studies that show that our gut is actually our second brain. And there's just as much evidence to show that our gut and that inner knowing in Hawaiian is na'au. So your na'au is where you should be making decisions from, actually. People are like, oh, don't feel your decisions. You have to think about it logically. Well, you can talk yourself in or out of anything. Have you guys noticed that? You can talk yourself in or out of anything just using your brain. So there has to be the alignment between your inner knowing, your gut, and your mind. But sometimes the aligned action, the right next step, it doesn't even make logical sense. But you know that it's true, that you know that that's what you have to do. And and I want to invite you to trust that inner knowing. I just have a silly example. I have 3 boys that play club soccer. We're a huge soccer family. I'm a soccer mom. I love soccer. Grew up playing it. It's a lot, you guys. It's like a part-time job just getting all my kids to practice. Like we have like 6 games a week. It's crazy. And I was at my son's parent meeting for one of the teams on Saturday, and the coach is there talking to all the parents about our commitment, blah, blah, blah. He saw like, and this team is intense. Like they just came back from France. Like we do a lot of fundraisers, which I help out with just, as one of the parents. And I'm there with my 10-month-old baby. I have a 10-month-old baby. And he's like, Rachel, will you head our fundraisers this year in front of everybody? He's like, you got it, right? And I looked at him and I was like, I have no desire to do this. I don't have time or energy or bandwidth. But in that moment, I felt called out in front of everybody. And I said, yes. I said, yes. And guess what? As I was preparing this presentation, guess what I did? I was like, oh my God, I don't have the energy or bandwidth for that. I don't want to do it. So I texted him on the spot and I was like, hey, you know what? This is everything I have going on. I am committed, but I'm not going to do it. So find someone else who can do it better than me right now. And he was like, oh, I totally understand. Right. And so it's like, that's why I'm a recovering people pleaser, right? So just little things like that. And just because you say yes to something, you can change your mind. It doesn't mean you're not committed. It means you're committing to yourself and your inner knowing. And what's best for you is what's best for everybody else. Okay, this is the paradox, the flip side to that same coin is sometimes the aligned action that you need to do is actually the thing that you're resisting. So the thing we most need to do is the one we've been avoiding. When we say yes or no out of fear or obligation, we betray our alignment. When we say yes or no from clarity and courage, we amplify our impact. So don't get confused between your gut, your inner knowing, and fear, right? Do I get a little bit nervous every time I speak in front of people still? I do. Like the night before, I tell my husband, why do I always say yes? Ugh. And then I do it. I'm like, oh my God, it was so fun. It was so fun. I met the most amazing people. I had the best time. I'm in flow. I love it. But before, there's always that like primitive brain, the survival. No, they're going to throw things at you. They're going to hate you. Don't expose yourself, right? So sometimes the aligned action is uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean it's not the right aligned action. So ask yourself, Is there something I've been resisting or avoiding that's actually the next aligned action for my life, for my leadership, for the next move? Okay, we're done. We're wrapping this up. So, in summary, the 5 pillars of empowered leadership. Awareness gives you clarity on your thoughts, emotions, and actions. The genius helps you uncover your highest contribution. Boundaries and boldness are how you protect that contribution. Authenticity makes your leadership powerful because people trust you. And aligned action is how we lead forward with courage, intention, and impact. So there, at the end of your little handout, there's these 5 invitations. I'm going to call them invitations/challenges. Take some time to go through it and apply this and do these exercises. And I would love to see and hear how this goes for you, how that exercise went for you. And if you have any ahas or anything you'd love to share, I'd love to stay connected. I'd love to meet all of you. There's my Instagram or my LinkedIn, the QR code. I would love to connect with you. Like I said, right? Love is the most meaningful thing there is, and relationships are the most meaningful in my life. And so I've met amazing women coming here randomly in February. Someone just invited me, a friend that works at Oakland, and I came, and this is just such an amazing, incredible group of women. And so please talk to me, please connect with me, and as I would love to hear about your journeys through your empowered leadership. Thank you.